it's dynamic, right? Capital is flowing into the space economy. Just start with the basics of your thesis on SpaceX, right? How much in your target, your price target for this stock you assign to the space launch business with the bigger, longer-term AI story behind it?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on. In terms of the specific question, we use the general formula Starlink, Starship equals Starbucks. You were just talking about Starbucks on the previous segment. Previously, we assigned a $300 billion valuation to SpaceX's launch business, which was only a fraction of the total roughly $2.2 trillion total company valuation. I think the company went public at around 1.8 or 1.9 trillion. But Starlink and the data center business right now are what's producing the Starbucks here, in that Starlink has quite honestly taken over the entire telecom industry. We have, for the past decade, covered satellite communications providers such as Viasat,
right,
Iridium, Gogo, and AST Space Mobile. And Starlink has won a ton of customers across the in-flight connectivity sector, residential, and for data centers, it was widely reported that SpaceX won the leases with Anthropic and Google. So they're firing on all cylinders, or nearly all cylinders, I should say.
Louie, I'm sure you did, and many did, study the prospectus very closely. And all of those future business lines, be it orbital data center and things even more further afield on that, are predicated on SpaceX getting Starship A, to work, be human payload rated, and be reusable. My question to you and all of the sell side going forward is, every time there is a Starship test launch, how closely is that going to impact the stock and be tracked for its success?
Yeah, so they've done 12 Starship launches. I think they're going to do the 13th. And every time they launch Starship, they learn something, and there's iterative improvement. So the goal here is for rapid reusability and full reusability over the next several years. So this isn't something that's expected in the next few months. And given how SpaceX is a full, decade ahead of the competition here, we don't think, the stock price is going to be, that sensitive for, each trial. We think, there will be, learnings from each trial, and progress will be made in terms of developing the AI satellites, which are expected to debut in, I believe, the second half of 2028. So I don't think there's going to be very high sensitivity. I think there will be more sensitivity, if Google or Anthropic were to suggest that they wanted to terminate their data center leases with SpaceX, given the huge dollar volumes.
Right. Well, it was Musk in the first instance that was suggesting those were short term and sort of disputed the longer term nature of them anyway. Right. You also write about Blue Origin in the private markets. What did that signal to you, and how do you see the gap between SpaceX and Blue right now?
Yeah, so, quite honestly, in terms of New Glenn, it has launched 3 times, and the prior mission with AST Space Mobile didn't work out very well. Whereas SpaceX has launched its Falcon 9 rocket over 650 times. So, the scorecard, 650 to 3. And SpaceX is already on Starship, which is a generation ahead of New Glenn. So I think there is an appetite for a competitor to Starship and Falcon 9 and Blue Origin, as well as Rocket Lab. They represent the most competent and capable and innovative competitors, but the fact remains, SpaceX has a 90% plus market share. They're a decade ahead. And so, the launch business for SpaceX should be valued at more than triple, the rest of the market combined.
Louie, we're running short of time here, but how do you model for Elon Musk key man risk?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. You would say Elon Musk is also, the key man, like virtue here, in that Elon Musk is the greatest, innovator of this century, and we think Elon Musk is, highly aligned to the company. So, we don't consider it a major risk here. He sleeps on the floor at Starbase. He puts his heart and soul into these business endeavors. So we think he's fully aligned, and he's going to be on board. And SpaceX has a very deep bench with Gwynne Shotwell and Mila Kusto, Brett Johnson as the CFO, who's awesome. So, they have a very deep bench, and we got to meet everybody at Starbase and in Hawthorne.